Good morning and welcome to this keynote conversation with Simon Hammon, Chief Product Officer of Relax Gaming. I'm Stewart Darkin, Managing Director of CasinoBeats, for those that don't know me, and for those that do know me, hello. I hope you're enjoying this edition of our Slots Festival. Now based in Gibraltar, Simon previously spent nearly 7 years at Net10 as a key part of and then leader of the product team there. He joined Relax Gaming at the beginning of 2018, which seemed longer ago than that, but it was 2018. Simon, welcome. It's good to see you. Firstly, I didn't know you were in Gibraltar. I thought you were in.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here to start. Moved to Gibraltar actually just 6 months ago. Relax has expanded its licenses to include the Gibraltar license, and I've been in Malta for coming up to nearly 10 years. So I thought it was time to change the scenery, change of environment, and move on. Got a little boy now, so maybe he needed to experience the pleasures of Morrison's, I think.
So you moved during lockdown, right? You moved, or was it between lockdowns? Was it in a gap in between?
Actually, we were planning to move a bit earlier than I did, and we got caught in between one lockdown to the next. And it was a bit of a mad rush to get over here. So yeah, we kind of just jumped ship just before the secondary sort of lockdown kicked in. So managed to get an apartment and sort things out. But it was a bit of a logistical challenge moving to a new country when you're in the midst of everything being, you can't get everything sorted. But thankfully it's all worked out very nicely and well, and we're enjoying Gib, and Gib's a great environment. And yeah, it's we're currently in a second lockdown at the moment, so there's no restaurants or anything open, and it's a little bit restrictive, of course, but that's the nature of the beast, I guess, right now, until we all hopefully climb out of this together and later on this year. So
yeah, sure. So yeah, you saw fit to add even another challenge to 2020 by moving across Europe. We'll reflect on 2020 in a minute, but just something I wanted to do is that as a journalist media organization, we encounter a lot of C-level titles, and I'm interested in what Chief Product Officer does day to day, right? I don't want to make the whole thing about that, but if you could, you had the same role at Net10, and I'd just be interested to know what your primary function is at Relax, again, for the benefit of the audience, really.
Sure. I would you're absolutely right. Different titles can mean different things at different companies, right? So my responsibility at Net10 was quite different to Relax. And as I would say, is a much broader responsibility that I have at Relax than I had previously. At Relax, fundamentally, I'm in charge of the casino offering that we have. That includes our own game production, new game ideas, new custom integrations, supporting our regulated market business, and also looking after our aggregation business. So the differences here is that I'm, not only involved in studio production, I look after far more of the end-to-end production value than I did previously. So I'm actually directly in charge of studios. I'm actually involved in the game production items. Even down with working with studio managers about hiring new talent and new artists and setting up new studios and all this kind of stuff. So that's one part of my business, and the other part is supporting the aggregation area that we have, and we've been growing. So that's looking after all the new partners, looking after their integrations, our B2C integrations. So it's pretty broad, but I was to sort of boil it all up, and I'm ultimately responsible for our casino area, from a product, commercial and delivery point. When I say commercial, obviously I'm not doing the deals with our operators or account management here. I'm looking after the partners coming through and the commercial deals being done. So it's keeps me busy, especially with the rapid growth that we had. But it's an area that I love, and it's been a great expansion to my responsibilities from before, because now I'm far more involved in the production cycle specifically, which I think is really healthy, where someone is looking strategically at the business, is also quite heavily involved in the operational drivers of the business. So you are able to strategically marry your capacity versus your ideal in that sense. So I'm not sure if that was quite a long-winded answer, but if I was going to trim it down, it would be, before I was kind of setting strategy, approving potential orders, whereas now I'm not only doing that, I'm actually responsible for seeing those through, the execution arm of that. So that keeps things interesting. The challenge is different for sure.
I'm sure, yeah. And something that when we planned to have this chat, something that really struck me was, given the nature of that position as you just described it, and given the nature of what the industry has gone through, so both the wider gaming industry, but also online casino and slots in the last 12 months or 10 months or however long it's been since the restrictions kicked in, if you like. I thought it'd be really interesting to get your perspective on that, because it's been quite a year for online slots, really, and I don't really want that to be, well, it's all right for us. Okay, I don't, I know that no one takes that view, but it really has been a standout year, and Relax has done well anyway. I mean, Relax has had a hugely successful 12 months, irrespective of anything else that was going on. So I'd really be interested in your perspective, because a lot of people know you around the sector and respect what you have to say, and as we've set out, you have a strong CV. So, how do you think the industry did or is doing? And by industry, I think I'd refer you to online casino, because that's what we're
Sure.
talking about, really. How we did since March 2020, and how Relax has done this year. Where is Relax at this moment? So two answers there, but I'll go quiet. Sure. And then let you speak.
I mean, if we start off a little bit about the pandemic situation, I think undoubtedly it's been I want to say sort of a good year actually for the online casino business. Obviously, the downturn in sports and these types of things has driven the casino revenues up, as has the marketing focus and the attention from a lot of operators. So it's been a natural upside in that sense. In other respects, though, it's been tough because a lot of key markets, principally places like Sweden, have brought in restrictions and caps and things like that, which obviously has halted that growth or even stifled that growth to some area. And then, of course, you've got the logistics of, you've now got a workforce that's working from home, and how to manage that. And of course, when there's operator pressure to grow and to deliver on those targets that they have to supplement the revenue, you need to make sure you're delivering. And everyone's trying to get the deals done, trying to push forward, trying to get things done, and you're trying to remotely manage that situation with a workforce. I think it's no secret that Relax has had a fantastic 2020. I think the pandemic has, certainly not a driver for that, but it's, hasn't done us any disservice in that sense. It's also helped our growth and grow the partner ambitions that we brought on. But it has had its challenges, and it has been difficult, and we have had to make sure that our studios and creative people who can often thrive in teams are now working in isolated environments. But I'd like to say really that we've adapted extremely well. I would be hazard a guess actually that we've, as a company, have been more productive than actually being in an office environment, and that leads us to lots of different conversations. I'm sure many companies are the same, and it's this new reality that we're facing right now actually has been quite a positive. Of course, you need to work very, very closely with to keep that motivation, that value add that you as a company have with your staff, but it's working well, I hate to say, and we've been supporting it, and people are comfortable. So yeah, I think casino has been positive. It's certainly brought in certain markets where it's been tricky. It's definitely grown the demand or the hunger, both from an operator side and new suppliers wanted to make business. And it's also helped compound Relax's 2020 to be absolutely fantastic. I think 2020 for us was, I wouldn't say we're a breakthrough year. We've been going around since 2010, but it was really the year that we became far more noticed, more established. Some of our own game successes, our partner growth. I think this was the year that Relax became, or is becoming, a must-needed supplier product and service to the operator base, and I think that's really starting to bed in. Something for us now.
Can I just cut in? Sorry, can I ask what you put that down to, though? I mean, those are all truths, but
yeah, no, I think it's a good. Well, these things don't happen overnight. This has been especially on the casino front. We kicked off casino really in 2014. And that was largely as a platform service to one or two suppliers. And I think that was the sum knowledge of Relax, until at least mid 2018. Relax is known because it's a platform for supplier A or B. So this 2020 flagship year is actually built from the previous two. It's been laying the foundations, growing the partnership base, growing our B2C distribution base, our reputation from a branding and a marketing perspective, our solidification of our own studios. That takes time for the guys to learn, how to make great slots, what's competitive, and to build up their experience. And I think it was the coming together of 2 to 3 years of pretty hard, intensive work where that started to really show fruit. And, of course, it was helped along with some great flagship Relax own productions that have performed extraordinarily well in 2020. I mean, we had arguably the biggest game launch from any supplier in 2020. Of course, that's always subjective, and maybe some suppliers are going, no, we did. But Money Train 2 was a fantastic hit. Got it several awards, and I think operators have been really happy with that. And of course, that boosts your profile as a supplier, helps generate new B2C deals, and that helps generate partnership deals as well. So I think it was the culmination of 2 to 3 years of foundation setting that is now starting to pay off and offers us a new foundation block to push forward into 2021 and beyond, and with a new lease of life and a new threshold. I think 2-3 years ago we were relatively unknown. I think today we are becoming a bit of a necessary staple in an operator's portfolio, with the ambitions that we are going to be and will be a top supplier for an operator, servicing their needs. So it's an exciting journey for us, but it doesn't happen overnight, for sure.
Yeah, perhaps if I was a clever journalist, I would have said something like overnight success, 10 years in the making or something.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about Money Train 2, but you kind of already answered that, really. I was going to ask you as a product guy, as a slots guy, really, what you feel it is about that game that turned it into such a hit. But actually, I think you've covered that, because you said that really that's the outward representation of the internal successes, the things you've been working on, the culmination, a moment, right? Your moment came with Money Train 2. But it wasn't the only good work you've done. Let's not suggest that. But
no. I mean, we've had some great launches. I mean, Alcatrazes and TNT Tumbles, and the recent collaboration with Iron Bank has done very, very well with Casino Ground. So you're never, any supplier can have a good game. It's about how you compound the general offering and what does your general roadmap look like. But in this landscape, it's to get a hit is extremely difficult, right? I mean, operators, they may have anywhere between 70 to 100 games launching a month. They might have upwards of 100 plus supplier deals in place. So visibility of a new game is 1 to 2 days kind of max, and it needs to resonate very, very quickly. So to get a hit these days is so much tougher than it was 4 or 5 years ago. You've got to have something that stands out and resonates very, very quickly. And I think Money Train 2 did that, because not only did it build on the success of the first iteration that we had, but it captured the imagination and the likes of all the streamers community, which really liked that big win potential. But we made a game that I think had a great theme, had fantastic winning potential, tangible, and actually paid out huge wins very quickly. I mean, I think we experienced our first max win of 50,000x in less than 48 hours, and it's paid out hundreds of those since launch. So the winning ability is tangible, and it was interesting without being overly complex. So, people often say, it was the right product at the right time. And I can give a couple of examples of games that have done that in the past. I mean, Starburst is a great example. I mean, you look at it and you go, well, it's a very simple game, very intuitive, but it was launched at the right time. It was right at the cusp of online casino growth. It was very cheap to market in terms of its free spins, and just was, became a brand in that sense. The landscape now, 10 plus years is so much different. You need something hard hitting that resonates quick to be a hit. So yeah, Money Train 2 did that, and that's obviously a very proud moment for us as a studio, quite a young studio in many respects, doing our own content, to have such a flagship hit of 2020. But I'm most proud of our general roadmap, and how the quality and the stickiness of that is actually resonating higher and higher and higher. And I often think a supplier should not be judged by one or two games. It should be, what is the portfolio perception? What is the roadmap perception? Any supplier is going to have, a couple of, games in the year that's not going to perform. It just doesn't hit the right mark, doesn't resonate, doesn't, for whatever reason. It's about the general quality, the general perception of what you're bringing to the table. And I think, we're going from strength to strength on that. And that's something that we're very paranoid about, to make sure that we keep servicing higher levels of ambition and quality of production and uniqueness in many respects, but keeping it simple and to what the players want. And I think this is where Relax is going right, and perhaps some other suppliers are maybe going wrong. But it's always good to have a flagship, but it's more important to have the general roadmap perform at a higher and higher level.
And then of course you give yourself a new challenge, which is how to follow it, right? And that's because people suddenly hold you to a higher standard still. As you say, you've got to be realistic about that. And I think given the volume of slots, I think maybe is now there is a bit of breathing space, one would hope. But you talked about the general roadmap and your commitment to that, and being a very forward-looking company with a forward-looking strategy in that sense. So not dwelling on the hits, but looking to what we do next, or what you do next. So what is let's park 2020 and let's look ahead. What is that roadmap, as far as you can share it with us? What can we expect from this growing dynamic company? Everyone's looking your way now. They want to hit.
Yeah, so 2021's already off to a bang. And when you talk about roadmap, you have to look at it from multiple different angles, right? So our general integration pipeline with new operators, those operators, we're doing more deals than I've ever done before, per month. Our sales team's doing a fantastic job, and we're getting a lot of interest for people to want to do deals. Some of these guys can take vanilla integrations. Some of them are now becoming much bigger tier one integrations and require custom work and adaptions, and that needs to be scripted into our landscape into 21. Our regulated market footprint, we're not everywhere that we need to be, and that's certainly plugging some of those gaps in 21 is very key for us. When it comes to our game portfolio, we have graphical ambitions that are even higher, and mechanical ambitions and innovations that we have in the pipe. I mean, we're already developing games into Q3, Q4 for 21 for launch. So when we talk about 21, actually, from a game production point, we're kind of done with 21, almost. We're already thinking about 22, and that's fantastic for us to be in that position, because it takes so long to get your roadmaps and your teams and your pipeline and to give you that breathing room. But we've just invested in a brand new studio in Stockholm with fantastic talent, and so that's a signal of ambition that Relax wants to go bigger and better and keep that momentum going. And another area that we haven't gone as hard on in recent years, but it's definitely coming into the pipeline now for 21, is some of the needed promotional functionalities and things missing from our offering. So it's all guns blazing for us in 21. We've got a solid foundation now, and we're just rapidly capitalizing on the initiatives that we have. Without losing touch with what can quite often happen with a company, is that when you rapidly grow, you don't pay attention to the necessary tech, which is the scalability of things, the tools, the systems, the framework architecture, the just all these elements that can build up a very nasty technical debt situation, and then you often 3-4 years later end up paying the price of that growth, which I think many companies have experienced. And this is something I'm allergic to, and something that I'm very conscious to make sure it doesn't happen with Relax. And we're well known for our platform, our technical architecture, our speed, and that's something we have to work to make sure we continue, because that's helped us get to this 2020 platform and needs to help us service now for the coming years. So yeah, it's a busy year. Of course, I can't reveal exactly what's cooking and what's next, but I think some of our upcoming games showcase that quality expansion. Some of the PRs that we're launching showcases our distribution expectations. We'll be announcing certain market entries coming through. So yeah, I would say it's more of the same, bigger, stronger, faster. So it's it's going to be an exciting year. As all things, we pride ourselves mostly on the people at Relax, and I know that sounds like quite a common statement that many companies would say, but you've got to bear in mind we're a poker provider, a bingo provider, an aggregation business, our own studios, our marketing teams, and we do that with just over 200 people. We're a very lean organization, and we do that by hiring truly what we feel is the best talent in the market, and people who are self-driving, and that's what we focus on as well, is to organizationally put the structure in place to make sure that we can deliver on these scalable expectations that we have. So very proud of not only what we're doing, but also how we're doing it with the amount of people that we have. Very long answer there. Sorry.
No, very good. No, it's very good answer. It's a very good answer. And I was thinking that I'm glad I'm not in the slots development business and up against Relax off the back of that manifesto. You mentioned streamers a couple of times, and you mentioned Iron Bank, which of course you developed in collaboration with Casino Grounds. And if we're looking ahead, something that I've noticed, and something that's evident from this slots festival, is the role and the standing really that streamers, not just Casino Grounds, but the streaming community generally now has. And I'd be interested in your perspective. We have a few minutes left, so some perspective on that, and where you see them now. Because it wasn't that long ago that it wasn't a thing at all, right? And now it seems like a really valuable tool for the industry, whether that's operators or providers.
I think it's definitely an area that's here to stay. You're right. I mean, especially with suppliers and the affiliate media streams, right? I mean, there were never natural bedfellows in that sense. There was always, supplier to operator, operators work with affiliates. And in this increasing competition where visibility of your product has become tougher and tougher, and operators aren't maybe giving you the campaigns, the marketing, or the real estate, or the product placement that you feel your product deserves, it's fantastic now that there is a increased awareness and vehicle for that. Streamers being one, but traditional affiliate media is another. They are waking up to the importance of working closer with the supplier industry. Suppliers have been great because it gives you a it gives you a touch point with the end player. And that's what you're looking for, really. You want the end player to see your product. You want other players to see your product. But you also want the feedback from that. You want to know what's happening. Of course, we pore over data and we look over the BI streams of what's happening, and you get an understanding of performance and resonation. But you can't replace that with actual player feedback, positive or negative. And streamers have given us the additional ability to do that. I mean, our game designers are all players fundamentally, but you need a broader perspective. So streamers have been great, and they've given the win potential, the enjoyment factor that you're trying to bring to life in a production, and shown that to a player base. And I think that's imperative. We want a player following. We want to create a player following, and that also means you've got to have the right product that suits that market as well. But it's definitely a mainstay of any supplier strategy. It needs to be. That doesn't mean that you just work with a streamer on any game. It's got to be the right product, because otherwise you do your product a disservice if it's not going to resonate. And that's something that we've worked quite a lot in our strategy. We have close relationships with a lot of different streamers in different markets, and we value the feedback, really. I mean, okay, it's Sometimes it's just a couple of players that are giving you the feedback, but we want to see those big win videos. We want to see people accessing the features. We want to show the potential of the product. And maybe many people on this call don't understand, obviously, the workload that goes into making a game. You can work for 6 to 9 months on a product. It's a passion product. We're talking about, thousands and thousands of hours of, 20, 30 people's effort and time for potentially what is a window of 1 to 2 days visibility. And that can dictate the reward somewhat of that effort and passion. And, and not always that those players are seeing the potential of what you've been pouring your heart into. So streamers are helping us also bring that to life, showcase it. And I think that's where it is. And the influencer community now is becoming more and more important in what is such a highly competitive landscape. We can't undervalue the benefit of the influencer community, whether that is streamers, affiliates, forums. This is so important to get your message across and get the product potential across. And hopefully that resonates. If it doesn't, it will backfire quite badly. But you need to make sure that you've got the guys on board and at least trying your product.
So looking ahead to 2021 and beyond, really, it's just moving away from Relax specifically, because it sounds like I'm trying to tease out of you more about your roadmap, and I'm not. What can we expect? Right? What trends do you think we will see? And trends for a year is a very glib way of looking at things, but for the next 2 or 3 years, what changes in direction have you seen that you think will influence slot product development for the next period, whether that's a year or 2 or 3? And maybe we'll end on this note. So you feel free to kind of round up or finish on Relax if you want to.
Sure thing. I quite often get asked this question about, what's the next trends and what's going on. And
yeah, sorry about that.
No, sorry. It's always very difficult to predict, right? Because this market is changing actually very, very quickly. Like if I said 2-3 years ago, where would we be now? I think I'd be quite far off point, because the dynamics are changing. The players in the market are changing. Some of the things that have happened in the last year, with some of the well-known suppliers, I don't think anybody would have predicted that a few years ago. So I think we're going to see a bit of a changing of the guard in many respects. I think some of the larger, more well-known supplier brands are maybe not going to have the same trajectory or success that they've had, and I think that's going to open up doors for innovative small suppliers and more niche products and more exploratory products. Conversely, I also think it's going to be an increasingly tougher time for many suppliers. I actually see in the next few years you're going to see perhaps a lot of M&A. I think you're going to see, dare I say, some of these suppliers even going bust. There just isn't the ROI potential that there was a few years ago. You need to play the longer roadmap game. You need to understand that it's about not just one game and that's your future, or 3 or 4. You need to make sure there's compounded revenue, and that's becoming tougher and tougher. And some, unfortunately, just won't get the distribution, won't have the hit, and won't be able to afford it, and will break off and will go under. So I think, sadly, you're going to see quite a lot of that happening in the next 2 years. So perhaps more M&A, and also suppliers finding it tougher to compete and to maintain their position. We all know that the regulated market trend is nothing new, right? But it's also becoming, the restrictions, the policing, the curb on problem gambling, these are all things that are not only impact the top line, but also impact your game design fundamentally. Take Germany as an example, with 5-second delays and this, that, and the other. You need to think about the end player experience when these things happen. You can't just put brakes on certain things. You need to create new product with those in mind that is still engaging yet it complies. So I think you're going to need to see not only an adaptation to regulated markets, but a creation for regulated markets to actually compete in the course of the next few years. So yeah, I would boil it down to that, really. It's increasing competition. It's going to incentivize a lot of M&A and also perhaps tougher times. It's going to force a lot more innovation and creativity. I do think that opens up a lot of opportunity for small suppliers with great ideas, because the route to market now is, if the likes of Axe, is easier than ever before for a smaller supplier who could never have dreamed of getting live with some of the tier one operators 3 or 4 years ago. They can get live and they get their game in #1 spot, from with one game and no history really, if they've got the right idea and the right quality. So I think you're going to see quite a big upset in the dynamic of share of pocket from suppliers in the coming years. And hopefully we are driving that, to be honest. And from a relaxed point of view, I think our goal here is to be in tune with that, and to make sure that we are, in the coming years, becoming a more important part of an operator's portfolio, not just from our own content, but from the aggregation service level that we bring. We went live with about 15 to 20 new suppliers last year. The same will happen this year. It's rapidly growing in terms of the choice and the localized choice for an operator, which is becoming key as well. Suppliers to target certain jurisdictions or markets or certain things. So yeah, a lot more targeted distribution, a lot more targeted operator focus, a lot more competition, and the drive for innovation and quality has never been as fierce as it is today. For those suppliers who are just churning out what was working a few years ago, good luck, really, because I don't think the players want that anymore, and I don't think that yields in revenue anymore. Players are looking for things that are different, interesting, intuitive, and unless you're producing that, I don't think you'll be a winner in a few years' time. And riding off past glories or past successes, you're only as good as your last game, as many people say, of course. So you've got to keep that attention to detail and not rest on your laurels. So yeah, it's exciting, it's challenging, but it's still a thriving business place, a market and growth opportunity for forward-thinking studios.
That's a nice. No, we could talk about this for quite a long time, I sense. I have so many things I want to ask you about that you touched on them, but I won't, because you might not want to talk about them on record anyway. But a lovely note to finish on. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us today, and keep up the good work and enjoy Jib. We will hopefully see you in person sometime soon. At an event here or there. I'm not sure.
I think everyone in the industry is craving the next event where we actually have a physical meetup, and it's going to be. I'm hoping for everybody it will be not too long before we can actually enjoy and get back to a degree of normality.
As I say, thank you. Until then, thanks so much. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon. Cheers, bye.